expert. Good morning to you, sir. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Yes, I hear you. Good morning, madam.
Good morning. I have a few questions regarding the article that we just read, and the first question is, tell us more about your opinion regarding the importance of intensifying efforts to organize exhibitions offering school supplies at reasonable prices ahead of the new academic year.
Well, actually, this presidential instructions to increase the exhibitions offering affordable school supplies is part of the greater social protection efforts undertaken by the president and the state, trying to alleviate the pressures, especially from the middle and low income brackets. And that's because, of course, we have to admit that Egypt imported part of the global inflation due to increasing energy prices. We know that the headline inflation in Egypt increased from around 11.9% at the beginning of the year in Jan 26 to 14.9% in July 2026. And as I said, part of this, of course, is due to the increase in the global energy prices due to the geopolitical unrest in the Middle East. That's why the president gave instructions to increase the effort to provide school supplies at affordable prices to try to alleviate the pressure from the middle and lower income brackets. Also, this denotes the presidential care actually to develop and nurture Egypt's human capital, which is of course its youth. We know that Egypt is a young community. The population of 24 years old and less constitute around 54 million people in Egypt, and this is a great wealth that we have to nurture and develop.
Yes, I see, of course. We have another article from the Egyptian Gazette, and we read as Egypt currently holds safe levels of foreign exchange reserves capable of securing strategic requirement for basic commodities. Both ministers Mustafa Madbouli and Central Bank of Egypt Governor Hassan Abdullah affirmed on Monday during a meeting at the government headquarters in the Alamein city to review priority economic files. Both emphasized their continuous coordination to further enhance the strategic stock of various essential goods. The talks focused on macroeconomic alignment between the government and the central bank, detailing joint efforts to reduce inflation rates, increase dollar inflow, and implement ongoing structural economic reforms. Madbouli also stressed the necessity of full alignment in preparing the national program for economic transformation. He stated that this is integrated vision reflected the state's economic priority for the coming period, ensuring that monetary, financial, and sectoral policies work together to achieve a tangible positive impact on the national economy. Shifting to digital transformation, Abdullah announced during the session that the Central Bank Board of Directors has approved regulatory rules for a digital financial identity system, allowing for the electronic verification of the bank customer. So, could you tell me how do you assess the efforts exerted to secure the strategic requirement for the basic commodity?
Well, actually, we know that part of the national security is securing the food supplies, which is food security, as well as energy security, as well as foreign exchange resilience. All these elements are taken care now by the government in a scientific approach, actually. Regarding the official reserves of Egypt, they reached a record high of more than 56 billion US dollars. And here, let me be very blunt. Actually, this figure, it cannot be tampered with, it cannot be forged, because the official reserves are kept at foreign banks. So if we're stating a figure that's not true, the whole world will know. Just like, of course, the revenues of Suez Canal that are also rooted in foreign currency through foreign banks. So with this high level of official reserves, actually we have to acknowledge also the contributions of the Egyptians abroad. The remittances from Egyptians abroad reached also also a record high in the year 25-26 of 47 billion US dollars as compared to 36 billion US dollars in the previous year. This is around 1/3 increase. And of course, one of the main contributors to such increase is the decision that was taken by the Central Bank of Egypt and the Governor Hassan Abdullah in February 2024 by free-floating the Egyptian pound and allowing the foreign currency to be traded at their market prices, at their market clearing prices. Therefore, the sources of foreign currency now are being routed through the official channels to banks, to the official system. Of course, as I said before at the beginning when I talked about inflation, unfortunately Egypt had to import inflation from abroad. This is because of the global energy crisis, and also now we're having an increase in wheat prices. The international wheat prices increased. The Chicago benchmark wheat increased from around $270 per ton at the beginning of July to a present level of around $320 per ton. And the reason is that the disruptions in the Red Sea and the confrontation between Russia and Ukraine turning the Black Sea. The confrontation between Russia and Ukraine in the Black Sea, turning the Black Sea into an economic battlefield. Actually, each country now is hitting the exportation infrastructure of the other country. Even when Ukraine established its own trade corridor in the Black Sea, it was also hit now. That's why the whole world is worried about this. And here also, let me also state some other technical points that's of course known by the specialists in agriculture, that there is a certain limit to the amount or to the quantity of the strategic reserve that we can keep of any kind of grains, of wheat, of corn. That's because, of course, the rate of perishability, even if we store these grains in cold stores and well-equipped stores, but again, the rate of perishability is high. That's why we have to secure the optimal level of strategic reserve. At the same time, we have to maintain high levels of official reserves, and we can also use the hedging tools, the like futures and commodity derivatives, the hedging tool that can fix the price of imported grains on a certain scale, on a 6 months to 1 year.
Yes, of course. We have another article from Daily News, and we read as Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdelauti has called for the implementation of the first and second phases of the Gaza peace plan and the resumption of the U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding to de-escalate soaring regional tensions. Speaking by telephone with French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs Jean-Noël Barrot on Monday, Abdelauti emphasized that the plan serves as a proposed framework to end the Palestinian conflict and achieve stability. The Foreign Minister highlighted the necessity of returning to the negotiating track between the United States and Iran. He described the resumption of their mutual memorandum of understanding as a foundational framework for reducing tensions and paving the way for a more comprehensive and sustainable agreement, asserting that the diplomatic solutions remain the optimal path for settling disputes and maintaining regional security. So, could you tell me how would implementing the second phases of the Gaza peace plan and the resumption of U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding help in de-escalating the soaring regional tension?
Well, actually, we've learned from the previous experiences, especially the three major international crises during the last 3-4 years. Mainly, of course, the Middle East showdown now between U.S. and Iran on one hand, the Israeli war on Gaza Strip, and also the Russia-Ukraine war, that the global geopolitical crises and conflicts, they are interconnected. So now Egypt, under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, is trying to diffuse the tension in such global crises in order to try to alleviate the economic and political pressures that are produced by such crises. As we mentioned in this interview, that we have a global energy crisis, for example. Brent oil price on the one hand increased, and of course we know that Brent is the benchmark for pricing oil. It increased from around $60 to $64 per barrel at the beginning of the year to $73 per barrel on Feb 28, just before the war, and then during the peak of the war it increased to around $115 per barrel. Then after signing the memorandum of understanding, it fell to maybe $72 per barrel, which was less than its price at the beginning of the war, and therefore the risk premium was totally removed. Now it stands at $90 per barrel, and this threatens actually that the whole world may be heading towards a global inflationary wave. Also, the other crises like the Russia-Ukraine war is now threatening to increase the prices of grains after the economic showdown between the military showdown actually between Russia and Ukraine in the Black Sea, targeting economic targets and exportation infrastructure. That's why, as I told you, Egypt is trying to diffuse such interconnected global crises, and actually President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is representing the voice of reason actually in the international arena and international politics when he stated that the wars harm everybody, even the parties that are not participating in the wars.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Dr. Ayman Ghonein. Thank you for joining us. He was the economic and legal expert. We've come to the end of our segment. I'm Alia Dia. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more on Nile TV International.